and welcome. I'm Dr. Melissa Balizan, and you have ventured into Take Charge of Your Health. Simple steps you can do today to take control of your physical and mental health. And today with me, I have my friend Avital Miller, who is an author and keynote speaker, and she has come to us today to give us some exciting and information about health and wellness. So welcome, Avital.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and honored to be part of this program.
Thank you very much. And so let's talk a little bit about, your background. You come from more of the Microsoft world, program management. How did you shift gears and get into more of the healing aspect? And then we'll talk about your book here in just a minute.
Yeah. Well, I was really raised to get good grades and get a great job, and I majored in mechanical engineering and dance, but more the dance for fun in college. So of course I was set to be a program manager at Microsoft straight out of college. And what also happens straight out of college and almost like out of the mother's womb, goes, well, who am I actually? And sitting there at Microsoft going, oh my gosh, like this isn't completely a good fit. And I actually went and traveled the world for a year to reset, to understand, what's really happening here and who am I going to be in the world. And I had grown up as a dancer, as I mentioned, so I'm already into the physical fitness and the body, but as I'm traveling, I'm shifting my paradigm about life. And that really just automatically takes me into yoga. And while I'm traveling, people are approaching me to teach them constantly. And this is the time where yoga was like a new, curious thing. It was not that everyone does yoga like we have right now. So everyone wanted to learn from me. And I dove into all aspects of yoga, be the physical and then the spiritual behind it. But during that time, even though I'm this yoga and I also was teaching fitness programs, I started having health issues, which you wouldn't expect from somebody who knows about health. And I'm 27 years old and I'm known as the Energizer Bunny, and I'm a fitness director, teacher, trainer. I'm teaching 25 to 30 classes all over town. But I'm starting to have issues with fatigue, with my hair falling out, with my muscles turning to fat and getting weaker than my students. My joke used to be that it was okay as a teacher because I didn't have to hold the poses as long as the students. But it was like the secret, like no one should know, because not just my pride, but am I going to be out of work?
Right.
And you can imagine too, Melissa, like, hosting this summit and then losing your voice beforehand. Like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do my mission, my job, my work? And health was just declining. So through a bunch of series of research with the doctors, they diagnosed me with an autoimmune disorder called Hashimoto's, as well as hypothyroidism. And the common response, they gave me lots of medicine, a high dosage of medicine. Luckily, they also prescribed a bunch of supplements, and they just send you out the door. That's it for life. I'm thinking, okay, if that's it for life, kind of like an arranged marriage, I better make the most of this. So I start researching, how do I do this in the best way? How do I achieve my goals and my visions for life, knowing that this hindrance is going on? And I start reading, and I go to all these different medical practitioners and testing all these different things out, and on the elimination diet and taking this tincture and changing all the chemicals in my home. And I went to India and studied for 2 months one-on-one with an Ayurvedic doctor. And I felt like all of those things were leveling me out. But here you're getting the story of how do I shift to healing? Because then that was the first miracle, when you're on hormone medicine and you're level instead of all this up and down. And I was also very fascinated with the yoga school that I had studied from, and fascinated with making it more of a way of life. So I actually moved in to the community, and I started meditating regularly. And then some might say I went from medication to meditation, because the doctor started tapering me off of the medicine. And I thought, wow, if that can happen for me, probably from meditating, maybe all this other natural stuff I was doing, what could happen for other people? And I started leading these healing programs around the world, just sharing basically another layer of yoga and meditation, which isn't taught on the forefront of all these different healing practices. And you know, when your ears open to something too, because this is where I get excited. I like to share about how did my book Healing Happens come about. When your ears open to something, you start to notice more and more of it. So I'm meeting all these people who have stories of healing from terminal diagnoses. And meeting them years later after they were told they just had a few months or a few hours to live. Mm-hmm. The question was, how are all these people doing this? And if this is happening to this many people, more people need to know. And that's where I put all the stories together. I interviewed them. So there's 17 of the interviews in my book, Healing Happens. There's more of them in my podcast. And it really shares the insight and inspiration of how we can take control of our health. How much choice do we have there? And, you know, what's the hope of overcoming these seemingly insurmountable challenges?
I love that. And you have been through challenges, and you have interviewed those others who've been through challenges. And I think that's why we connected so well, because, you know, one of my missions is to help those who want to get off of a medication, to, you know, get down to the bare minimum, get down to what is their body really just needs, you know, and if it's a supplement or if it's whatever it is, and not just being, you know, thrown a diagnosis by a physician and basically, like you, given pills and said, okay, hope for the best, let's go. And I, you know, mainstream medicine is kind of like that. We're changing, you know, you and I are getting our message out there, and several others are getting the messages out there of there is more integrative healing coming about, but it's going to take a little bit longer to get that ball rolling and get that wheel turning. So I love your message, and I love that, you know, that's kind of how you got to actually start writing your book. Is there anything specifically that maybe inspired you to, you know, write Healing Happens? I mean, you alluded a little bit, but is there one little key thing that says, this really inspired me?
Yeah, I mean, the key thing was hearing so many stories of it, and then saying that all of these need to go together in one book, because a lot of us really take science as the thing that's going to create our belief system. And what is science? It's showing the same results repeatedly. So if there's this many stories, some of them have their own books and they're best-selling books. But that's one person, one story, easy to brush off your shoulder and say, oh, that was them. That's not going to be me. That's their story. So what if I put over 20 different diseases? There's over 17 stories, right? Because a lot of these practitioners are sharing what they did for their clients too. They all became health and healing experts. So it is experts in there who really know what they're talking about. They've done their research to say, like, could there be a reason that this action created these results? You know, we're not allowed to like definitely say, like, oh, this will cause this, but we can notice that, oh, we did this and this is what happened to happen. So is there something in common between and amongst these people to say, look, this is what can happen? So let's see, like, the real proof that there's all these things going on. So maybe this is repeatable because this many people had it. And then what is the repetition there? So what is something else that I could do in my mapping? And maybe I'd have the same results. But where is the control in the process of health?
And that's exactly, I mean, that's exactly true. You know, you have all of these collective stories, and that's amazing, and that's awesome. And if we think back, I mean, that's how, I'm not going to we're not diagnosing or anything here, but as a disease is formed, you know, there were certain symptoms and things that came about before it got a name. And then we found out a way to potentially treat it. And we found other ways to potentially treat it, you know, with holistic care. And I'm very much an advocate for the combination of conventional medicine and ancient medicine or holistic care, East meets West, ancient and modern. I've said it a couple of different ways. And I think that's the case here. And often, somebody who's gone through being a diagnosed like you, or their own health condition, whether or not, they come out of it on the other side, and then they want to heal and help more people, and give them, shouldn't say heal, they want to give them that helping hand and say, okay, this is what worked for me. Let's try, try this. Talk to your physician, see if it's going to be okay, because we never want to do anything outside. We want to have that collective, relationship with our healthcare providers, and making sure that they're on board, and that way they can help us out and walk us through it. And having somebody in your corner like you to support is just amazing. And I love what you've done with that book.
Thank you. Yeah, well, the nice thing too about this is that there's rarely one of these natural healing techniques that conflicts with what your doctor is going to be okay with, which means that you can follow both paths at the same time.
Exactly. And that's exactly true. They're intertwined together. That's my phrase I use. I intertwined, because they're complementary of each other. One is, they're intertwined. I'm going to go with that. So, tell me some of the, maybe a few examples of maybe an overarching theme of maybe like the profound health shift in people, besides just, okay, this is my story and I'm going to tell it, but a commonality within that.
Yeah. But I tend to like to focus on the top 4, what I call full-bodied success mastery tips. And, I just opened the book and listed out all the techniques. I'm like, all right, what do we see that's repeated a little bit more, and what's more impactful? And I like to preface this as well, because when I started leading healing programs, I used to dive straight into, this is how you eat, this is how you diet, right? This is how you exercise. This is how you do calming for the systems in your body. And all of that is really great. But if we don't have the mindset of healing and of shifting our habits and wanting the results that come from that, that doesn't really do you that much good. So this is really like the first step of how do we approach healing, and what do we have control over, right? Because at the end of the day, we're not going to guarantee anything's going to happen with our bodies. But we have much more control over how we respond to it and how we live our life.
I love it. And that is actually absolutely key, your mindset, and you have to put yourself, I'm going to do this, and that's part of it. And so I love that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. So stage 1, the first full body success mastery tip is reason to live. That's the term that I use. I actually like to do a lot of hand motions for these as well. I'm also a dancer, but it helps us integrate it. And so if you even just put your hands on your heart, and then as you say a reason to live, you'll open your hands forward and wide open, like there's all this vast opportunity. So we can do this together. Reason to live.
Reason to live. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And this comes about, this term and this concept actually first came from my interview with Dr. Bernie Siegel. He wrote Love, Medicine, and Miracles. So a lot of people have heard of him, and it was just story after story of people who had terminal diagnoses of cancer, but they had their kids to live for. They wanted to see them walk down the aisle or enjoy their grandkids growing up. They wanted to go do some landscaping, make the world beautiful. They had 9 cats to take care of. Like, that was a reason to live. One of my favorite stories, which it doesn't come from Dr. Bernie Siegel, was somebody wanted to stay alive in order to finish watching a soap opera series.
Okay.
And so this is important to know, because your reason doesn't necessarily matter.
Right.
It's that there's that driving force. So I'm also a scientist. And what happens if we have 2 forces going against each other? The stronger one wins. So what if your reason to live is stronger than the disease? So, my science mind that says, okay,
I love it.
you're like, let's really do that. And how are we going to have more fun in the process, no matter what happens with our body? Mm-hmm. One of the stories where I really like where that happened was with Mamie Jean Lamley. And she actually had 2 miracles, because at first she was told that she couldn't have any kids. And maybe I don't know if you have kids or you just enjoy being around kids, but a lot of you guys watching, you probably know the wonder and amazement of connecting with kids, and then to be able to create that and raise these beautiful souls. And she was told she couldn't have any. But her martial arts instructor told her she could, and he said, just follow this diet. She had 3 beautiful kids.
Wonderful.
The next thing that happens, she's fulfilling another one of her dreams. She's on stage teaching a class called Think Like a Leader. And her phone's ringing in the back of the room. It's ringing, ringing, ringing. Her assistant looks at it. It's her doctor. So she's like, okay, I probably should answer this. And the doctor says, I need to talk to Mamie right now. But her assistant's like, well, she's on stage teaching a class. Like, could you talk to her another time? No. I need to talk to her right now. The assistant tells Mamie, you're going to have to let the class take a break. She's on stage taking this phone call. And the doctor tells her, you have advanced stage cancer. You need to come into the hospital right away. And Mamie's like, well, could I at least finish my class? He's like, okay. She decided her first mantra was that she's going to say cancer does not equal death. Because what do we often assume? So let's shift our mindset around that. And I would advise, don't make a mantra with the word death in it. Make a mantra with the results that you want. Because the mind only registers what you want, it doesn't know the word don't. So let's just a little tip there. But it did end up working in her case. She had to go through multiple surgeries. But here's the thing, what's driving her? I want to raise my kids. Mm-hmm. I want to experience them. I want them to feel okay during this process. And she's not feeling well. And here the doctors are taking care of her body, and she's going through the multiple surgeries. She's apart from her kids all of this time for quite a few months. And she discovers the mondala. I should have held one for you. Actually, do you know what a mandala is, Melissa?
I don't think I've seen one.
I'm going to draw a very bad version of one.
I love it. Arts and craft time.
Yeah, because I actually have a whiteboard here. But this will give you like just a visual idea. Mandalas are these like symmetrical patterns, usually in some sort of circular motion, that they use for spiritual purposes in India. And they would actually draw these beautiful, colorful chalk patterns on the ground, or sometimes make them with rose petals like floating in water before really big events. So this is my not so amazing visual, but you get the idea of these patterns. But now imagine like how soothing it can be.
Oh yeah.
To draw something like that. So this is very healing for her. And then all of her friends start doing it with her because it's so fun. And then one day, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she says, hey, why don't you write a question with your mandala about something that you want to understand in life? And I'll do an intuitive reading for you based on what you draw. Wow. All of a sudden, she can do these life readings for people based on their mandala drawing. A skill and a talent that she never knew existed before the disease came. And all of a sudden, she gets this gift that she can share with other people, and she can support them. And she makes it through all of this. So she continues doing the mandala readings. She gets to make her family her number one priority. And her number two was to inspire 5 million women. I mean, imagine going from this place of like, you might die, to I'm going to inspire 5 million women.
Wow. That's phenomenal. Just phenomenal. I love it.
Yep.
That's amazing for her and all the people, all the women that she's inspired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It always reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from my spiritual teacher, Swami Kriyananda, which is, there is in each of us a special song to be sung. And that ties in with our reason to live. If we really tune into what is that song, right? Sometimes we just start dying, literally or figuratively, because we're not actually following our purpose, right? Because maybe we don't see our grandest potential of that even being possible, of our worthiness of it. It doesn't fit into the normal model of what's a purpose. So that's also why I do these programs, to help people pull out of them, what's your purpose, and then how do we live it? How do we bring the most joy and livelihood into your life?
And that is so true. We want to have joy in our life. And, the title of this is Take Charge of Your Health. And I love that you are talking about, this can go both ways. You can have already been given that label of something from a medical practitioner, or maybe you're not. Maybe you want to prevent going that route. And so let's talk a little bit about what can people actually control with their health. Give us a little tip of, because we want them to be able to take control, to take charge. So what's one thing, that they can control?
Yeah, well, this is where I like to say, it again goes back to, how are you going to live? How are you going to respond? What do we have more control over? Our emotions, our state of mind. And it can be hard. And then actually, I'd like to elaborate, what do we also have more control over? Because sometimes we're going to emotionally react to things. So we have control over our reaction to our reaction. We allow ourselves to be sad, depressed, angry, for whatever time it takes that some disease comes up. Mm-hmm. But then we shift to, well, what's my purpose and how do I want to feel? How do I want to be in this world? True healing is not necessarily even staying alive. One of the stories in my book with Dr. Connie Hernandez is there was a woman who really, what was going to help her was infusing vitamin C, I believe, like in stronger dosages. And they turned the clinic around in order to create that capability. And it only prolonged her life and made her more comfortable in the process of dying. But then what it did was it gave her so much more time with her family, and good times, and time for them all to say goodbye and prepare for her passing. And they were so thankful of having that opportunity. So that's another layer of healing, is coming to peace with what is happening. Learning to live it in the best way. I mentioned this disease, it was like an arranged marriage, right? Yeah. I mean, it still goes on for me, but it's a much better partner now. It doesn't interfere so much in life because I've learned how to have a relationship with it.
And I like that analogy. I think that is key. You learn how to have a relationship, you learn what your purpose is, and you figure out, okay, what am I, what do I want to live for? What do I want to get out of this? And if it is even just being comfortable so you can say goodbye to all of your family, that is absolutely, the case. And however you take charge of your health, it's whatever you want. It's not what I want for you, or what Avital wants for you, or what your provider wants for you. You have to really take control. And that's why we want you to take charge of your health. Mm-hmm. And so before I get into, you have an amazing offer for us. Is there anything else that you'd like to say regarding the healing, about your book? Let you say anything else?
Yeah, I really want to encourage people to take these ideas in and also relate it to what is happening in the world. Because especially, like, I didn't even share some of the more profound stories where people are literally on their deathbed. Like, they know it, the doctors proclaimed it, you're about to die, and something shifts in their understanding. Like Maureen Bell literally realizes that she has choice because her son was like, why didn't you fight this? And then she starts to heal from a type of terminal cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I want to say this and put this out there because a lot of us in the world right now are letting the coronavirus run our lives. And it's great to take precautions, and it's important to live. So I talked about the reason to live and the impact on our health that we've seen over and over again. People overcoming terminal diagnoses because they chose to live. And so I would just encourage everyone to really think about, first of all, having the mindset to say this disease does not have to control my life. It is not the decider of everything. I am more of the decider. I am stronger than this disease. And then figure out what ways you can take back your life without feeling like you're putting yourself at risk.
Well said. Very well said. Thank you. And for those of you who are watching today, Avital has a very special offer for us. She's going to give us a month's membership, and I'm going to let her just describe what that is. So go ahead, tell us what you're gifting us here.
Yeah, well, I had mentioned that meditation I felt was a huge cause in my healing, but really the thing that starts any physical disease is stress. And how do we relieve stress? Through calming ourselves down. So we're getting meditation. But because I've done so many different trainings and programs in all different areas, and I'm looking at all these different scopes of healing and how we live in life, that I've just been taking in what are the challenges that people are having. Well, I'm about to go into this situation that causes me anxiety and I can't normally think through it. I'm seeing this racial discrimination, and how do I deal with this in a way where I can have a more positive impact? I want to have more glowing health and vitality in my body. Like, I want to stay calm in challenging situations. So I just address all of these different topics in the meditations as part of this membership program. We do 3 live meditations a week. So one of them is themed, and then 2 of them they give you more time to go deeper in your practice. And then because they're recorded, I haven't counted them lately, but there's probably 75 to 100 of these different themed meditations. And if there's a topic in your life that I have not covered, we'll do that in one of the next Monday night meditations. And that will be there for the recording, that you'll be able to continue to repeat that. So the value is actually of what it normally costs is $47 a month, which is still a lot of offerings for what people get. And then they tend to get like discounts and little other special offerings that I throw in there as well with the membership. And I would love to offer the people who are here to get a month of it. It's really important to me. I'm taking the keys from the expert from Yogananda, and then I'm filtering sort of my own creativity and life experiences and what's right for everyone. It's important for me to have a good community. And I have a sense that the people that you're attracting are good community. So all of you listening, I'm assuming that you're a good community. And I would love to have you included as part of this community as well. And it's important during this time to really think about who are the people who are uplifting us.
Absolutely. And I love that. And that's such a generous offer that you have allowed those who are listening. And once again, I want to say thank you, Avital, for being here and chatting with me today. I really appreciate your expertise and your time. Mm-hmm. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's watching. Make sure that you pull a nugget out of there. There is great different things that you can do, a simple step you can do today to take control of your physical and mental health. And thank you so much for watching. Take charge of your health. Have a great day.